Good morning, everyone. You are watching Barnstable this morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live on the phone from the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board, I welcome Executive Director David Augustinho. David, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Always a pleasure to have you here on the show. So it's taking a look at the jobs numbers, and I know as we are kind of pulling ourselves out of winter and heading into summer, those numbers are only going to improve. But we're going to take a look at the latest data available, and that is from the month of March.
Correct, March of 2014, and it's actually pretty good news. The unemployment rate, it seems high, but because of our seasonality, it's actually better than it has been. It's 9.2% for Barnstable County for the month of March, and in February it was 9.8%, so we're down 0.6 of a percentage point, which is a pretty healthy drop from month to month. And even better, it's down from 9.8% in 2013. So we have a gain from last year. That's a more telling number, because that means that at the same time last year we were 0.6 of a percentage point higher than we are now. And I think that speaks to the general improvement in the economy that we've been experiencing.
Indeed, more of those year-round jobs as opposed to just the seasonal ones.
Exactly.
But it's interesting, David. Anything else that you want to mention about the county rate overall before we kind of break it down town by town?
No, just that, let's see, we had about 1,000 more people in the labor force, and about 1,500 more people who are working in March over February. So that's pretty good results. And even if you look at the unemployment, the number of our unemployed in our economy from February to March dropped from 11,200 down to 10,600. So about 600 fewer people on the unemployment rolls, all of which is very, very positive indicators.
David, do the numbers tell you what sectors are seeing growth, or is it just kind of a flat overall?
No, it's just a flat overall. It's real hard. You don't get very much local sector data in these monthly numbers. It takes a while for that to filter down, but I can tell you that consistently what I've been seeing is that our construction industries are still not recovered from the recession. In general, healthcare, which is one of our largest employers, they were hiring during the recession. They were one of the few areas that was increasing. That slowed down a little bit as of the last 4 or 5 months. But the construction industry has not hired back up to the levels that they were experiencing in 2008, 2009, when the Great Recession started to take hold. So I'm hoping, and I'm hearing anecdotally from contractors that it's getting definitely busier. There's more work, so I'm hoping that as there are more jobs, that will follow the work. So I'm hoping that maybe within the next year or so we can fully recover in the construction areas, because that's an important area for the region, because it is a relatively high-paying sector for this region.
Absolutely. So let's kind of take a look town by town. It's kind of interesting as we look at Barnstable County as a whole, but there's really a lot of difference and diversity when it comes to the unemployment picture across the Cape.
Absolutely. And it ranges from a low of 5.9% unemployment in West Tisbury, all of which counts labor force of all of 1,600 individuals, up to a high of 34% unemployment in Provincetown, and that's 2,200 is the labor force, and 1,500 individuals are employed, and 781 individuals are unemployed. So of 2,200, 781 are unemployed, and that's about 34% unemployment rate, which people who live there, they factor that into their lifestyle. I mean, they choose to live that lifestyle.
Right. It is a very seasonal economy up in P-Town. I know I was there a couple of months ago, and I was hard-pressed to find something to do because almost everything was closed.
Yeah, and, and that's more, there still are pockets of high seasonality. Obviously, the Outer Cape, certainly Provincetown, and if you look at Wellfleet's unemployment is 18%. Truro is 22%. So those are the areas of high seasonality that we would expect to see that most of the Cape experienced years ago. The rest of the Cape, though, is much more of a year-round economy. So what we wind up seeing is that for the town of Barnstable, for instance, the unemployment rate is 7.7% in March, which puts it not that high from the state unemployment rate, which I think was 6.3% or so. So certainly when you look at Barnstable, Bourne is 8.1%. Brewster is actually only 8.1%. What other areas? Dennis, closer to 10%. So as you get more down Cape, you see higher unemployment. Falmouth is only at 7.8%. So the high unemployment, the true seasonal economy still exists on the Outer Cape and the islands, but the rest of the Cape, the Upper and Mid Cape, are much more year-round economies than they were 10 or 15 years ago.
Right, and you mentioned the islands. I wanted to go back and talk about that rate on West Tisbury of 5.9%. And obviously, you think of Martha's Vineyard as a real seasonal economy, but is that just because of the small population, of the small year-round population in
I
West
think
Tisbury?
that's what it is, because when you look at Tisbury itself, they're only at 6.4%. So, it's a much smaller population. So in Tisbury, the labor force is only 2,300 individuals, and 2,000 of them are working. So so you wind up with just about a 12% unemployment rate. Interesting, Sandwich is actually at 6.4%.
Interesting.
Unemployment. Just about on the state rate. I think possibly because if Sandwich is an area where there still are some commuters, so there are individuals who are going across the bridge to work, and certainly those are not seasonal jobs at all.
Right, and that was the first thing I thought of when you mentioned, that good rate in Sandwich is that,
right.
A great deal of people may reside in Sandwich, but work elsewhere, and a lot work over the bridge just because it's, easy to get on and off Cape from that part of the Cape.
Absolutely. So the picture, it shows, it kind of confirms what people know, although I don't think people realize how much of a year-round economy the Upper and Mid-Cape areas are compared to previous years. It certainly is apparent to me, and I think it's, as most people know, during the 1990s, certainly, and in the early part of the 2010s, the Cape was one of the fastest growing regions in the country. That's slowed down quite a bit, but there are a lot more people here than there were 15 or 20 years ago, and they require a lot more services and opportunities for consumer consumption. And I think that's part of what drives the jobs. Even in areas, it's funny, a couple of years ago when we were doing some strategic planning, one of the areas that jumped out at us was transportation as having a lot more employment than previously. And I think it's mostly because there's just a lot more goods being moved around on the Cape itself. So you have a lot more activity in moving things from warehouses to retail locations, even to people's homes and stuff. So in general, from the county numbers, we can see that we're doing better than we were the same time last year. That we're coming out of the winter. Although in March, boy, it was still a lot of winter.
Yes, it was. I feel like it was winter up until about last week.
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely right. And I think we've enjoyed the spring that we had the last couple of days, so now we'll just go right into summer probably.
Something like that.
So generally, it's a very positive picture, and we should see continuing decline in our unemployment rate as we go into the high season, so to speak. And we should, and again, we'll continue to monitor that same time last year number just to see how we're doing.
And we're really, as you say, it's positive and looking at a slow and steady a return of the economy, an increase in that year-round economy, which is definitely good news for us here on the Cape.
Yeah, and what we could do in a future show, Sarah, we can break down some of those sectors and especially compare them like to 2008 and 2009 and look at healthcare, construction, and some other areas just to show that the region truly is has emerged from that recession, and we're making a very positive gains.
Great. Well, I will look forward to having that conversation next time you join us on the show. For now, I thank you so much, and we will talk with you soon. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Sarah. You too.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
Bye-bye. David Augustinho, of course, the Executive Director of the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board. You can visit them online at ciwib.com. For Barnstable This Morning, I'm Sarah Colvin.